Nobody had a lot of money, and
Right.
But you always still had that protective feeling against your Oil Hill classmates, even though you might not run around with them always. They still were special because you'd known them forever.
Okay.
It's family.
Yes, it was families.
When you moved, go ahead. When you moved from Oil Hill, your actual homes, because the town was gone in the 50s, and you moved into town, you obviously didn't all move next door to each other, right? So when that happened, how did that make you feel? Were you able to keep those strong ties even though you were all over? Or did you start fading apart from each other?
Well, our age people didn't do that. It was our parents' age people who did that.
But I'm saying though,
You mean when Oil Hill died?
when Oil Hill died.
Okay,
What were the last family to go?
the very last family out of Oil Hill.
You two were the very last family out.
We bought the parish house and moved it out of the country, and we lived there 15 years. And I still taught. I taught in the Oil Hill School, in the old Oil Hill School, and then in the new one. And leaving Oil Hill was hard for us, although we still were in the same district, and our children were. Joy was in college by that time, and Oil Hill's a wonderful memory to me.
So it was hard leaving.
It was hard, and a lot of people moved into Township Village, and some moved into El Dorado, and some were like us and moved their houses out to the country. You could buy one of the homes for $300.
How much did you pay for the home?
$300.
$300.
We were given $300
when we got ready
for ours, and we bought.
Oh, you were given the home.
We were given the home, and we had to sell it or move it. So we sold it for $300, so you know it was a good house.
But we also had paid $9 a month rent, right?
I was 6 back in the Depression.
They all lived next door to each other after we moved.
Yes.
That enclave out in Township Village, there was, I don't know, my memory is about 12 families settled in the same block. And
Scoop Hartnett.
and Scoop Hartnett was down there. And yeah.
And I
The
think
Smiths
Scoop
and
Hartnett was in.
Virgil Huey was right across the street from us. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Scoop Hartnett's house was the only home that was moved to Township
Yes.
Village. Everybody else built one, but
And he did move his
but he
there.
moved
But
his.
there is a lot of one-shot houses all over town, but
Yes.
they've been built onto.
Yes.
But my mother, she lived in one there at 1505 West Central, which is where the Taco Tico is right now. When she bought that house, and it was a one-shot house.
Okay, when you go down 6th Street, there's a lot of, I've always heard them called the shotgun house.
There you go, that's
Yeah,
what
the shotgun, yeah.
we call it a shotgun house.
Were those actually moved from the lease? They were.
Yes.
But I'm hearing that some of them were not moved by the people who were living out there at that time. They sold them and someone else came.
Some of them on Ohio Street going toward Augusta, some people, various people bought them.
By city service, and city service was no longer, so then the town was no longer. But why did all the houses have to be moved off or torn down? Were they going to use the land for something? I know.
The lease was up.
The lease was after the owner.
What were they going to use the land?
She knows.
Go back to the people that owned it. The reason why the company decided to go out of the house renting business was the plumbing was worn out, the water lines were worn out. They had previously hired someone to come and repair our houses whenever something like broke, but it was getting just too big a job after all those years. So they gave us notice that they would turn off the water at a certain time, and now we could go ahead and live there, and we did too, while we were fixing up our house in the country. We could go ahead and live there, but we didn't have any water. That was quite a deal.
Is that the good old days? I'm still trying to find the good old days. I'm really
That wasn't good.
And city service continued as a company for some years after that. That wasn't the reason the town was given up. It's what.
It is that reason.
Exactly.
Because nothing has ever been done with the land. That's why I have the question about why everybody had to.
They just got out of the renting
Well, the
business.
land is still in use by the oil company. There's still oil wells there.
Oh, yeah, but there's nothing.
Still owned by the people that owned it in the
Well,
first place.
Yeah, but it was never.
Well, either it reverted to the original people that they leased the land from, or you know, they didn't want any derelict housing sitting out there to
No.
cause a problem. I mean, it was just
It was best for them to sell, let us do what we could.
right.
Yeah, because nobody's farmed it, nobody's.
And they took care of the houses, you know, every few years they'd come and paint them. And most of the while when I was growing up, they were gray with black
Painted the
trim.
windows too, you remember?
Yeah, And then later they painted them white with green trim, but you know, they were all alike. and
Cool motor
so-
green.
Yeah, you never had your own color of home. It
I
was
think
whatever
it's
the
good to
company-
mention the bargain that these houses were. They had natural gas, which was plentiful. Electricity was furnished, the water. And what did it cost you a month? $6 or $9 a month rental. And the gas was furnished, the electricity was furnished, the water was furnished. Even though it was, when the wind blew, you sort of felt it across the room, but
Cardboard walls.
yeah, it was a bargain. So.
You know, since the houses weren't built real well, I mean, you know, it sounds like they were put up real quick. Were they starting to look kind of bad by the time you were all moving out?
They kept them up.
Okay, fine.
They maintained them well.
And they built garages, don't forget.
Yes, we all had garages.
And then we had these little outhouses, except the elite had bathrooms, and we had outhouses.
Now, who were the
Rooms with
elite?
a bath.
Well, really, it didn't matter.
Executives
We
of the
certainly
company.
weren't elite, but it depended on the block you were in, whether your house was modern or not. One side of our street had a modern, you know, had bathrooms, but across the street they
And
didn't.
what street was that?
Pierpoint?
I lived in the Stokes. Would you?
And so the houses were nicer along there. Well, then back on the street back was Pierpont, and so the houses on the north side were modern. I guess the sewer system was in place or something, but across the street they weren't, and that's where we lived first. And then we moved over across.
Indoor plumbing, didn't they?
I don't know.
Well, I think so, because all the others had been moved
Been
out.
moved out. The town had been downsized quite a bit when I lived there.
Where did you live?
What's the main east?
Empire.
Empire. Lived on Empire about 2 blocks west of the fire station. I don't remember the
You were pretty
corner
close to
street.
Potwin Road, weren't you, Larry? Potwin Road that curved out.
Not too far. It was on down the street just a little bit, and about a block. Yeah, block that away. And we were a house in from the corner of another street. If I had a city map, I could tell you.
You mean where you lived, where your folks lived?
Where folks lived, yeah, when I was growing up. Now, they had lived several places in town during their lifetime, and we lived out on the Boyer and the Gusman, and
When we moved there first in 1936, your parents were our next door neighbor, and that was up at the end of Stapleton Street.
yeah.
Is that the one right in front of the school?
Right.
Was it
Yeah, that-
Stapleton my parents lived on?
Stapleton ended right in the driveway of the school.
Right.
Part of the school.
How about Jack? How is he related to you?
He's my uncle.
Your uncle.
Yeah. Dale's my dad.
That house is on Staple. Memory of your childhood.
One? Yeah.
Your happiest. All of it? Does anybody have a,
I'll tell you what, the happiest one for the whole community, I think, and that was the night that Joe Moreland was released from prison in Korea. He had been a prisoner in Korea.
I was thinking,
And-
we're going to hear some gossip here.
He was prisoner of war. Okay.
What was his name
And we
Joe
we
Moreland.
sat by
Is that
the
Virginia?
radio and listened while they named over person after person after person. Finally, the last one was Joe Moreland. And makes me cry even yet, how happy we were.
How did you get your news out there?
Already time.
Oh, the Radio Times? The
Butler County
radio?
News.
Okay.
We did neighborhood news that different people would write.
Oh, okay.
My mother wrote for 75 years to Raleigh Climber.
One of the things I mentioned in my
Pardon?
I bet he could tell.
Oh, my goodness.
That's one of the items we would like to borrow.
Yes, I would. What year, do you know?
No, I really don't.
I would love to have a copy.
Yes.
Better write down all that stuff.
We could at least borrow it.
It's wrote all over.
That's okay.
That makes it better, depending on what you wrote on.
The thing about Open Hill was that not only were we connected through the city service, but the families seemed to share much of the same value system, and so the kids were all raised pretty much alike, and you know, we all had jobs to do, but we also had lots of time to play and so forth, and so there wasn't as much diversity maybe as there is now, or whenever we went to larger towns. I think that was a big part of it. And we celebrated mostly the same way, and mostly it was family oriented.
What kind of chores did you have? What were you responsible? She said we all had cents for 100 potato bags.
We and my two little brothers and I and two cousins would always pick potato bugs and earn enough money to go to the carnival.
Oh,
Organic gardening, wasn't it?
okay. All right. I was going to ask, what could you buy for a nickel back then? Ice cream.
A hamper.
A hamper.
And a bottle of pop.
And all of it or part? One of each. Okay.
Even in high school, we took 15 cents each to school. And they got Ray Shank's Colonial Inn.
I went on a date for $1.
I can't think of
Okay, now was that a good day or was that a cheap day? Okay.
We went to the best movie in town, put 25 cents worth of gas in the car, 2 bits a piece to get into the movie house, and then we had a Coke afterwards. That left me with 15 cents. I took my date home because she had me home at 11, went back to town and had to pile them over the guys. 15 cents. $1.
I remember hanging lots of clothes on the
You remember what?
hanging lots of clothes on the clothes market.
Okay, hanging clothes. What other jobs what chores? Chores that you were responsible for?
Bugs on the
You didn't do much of anything. Were you kind of pampered?
potato bugs on.
I was an only child.
You were pampered. She was spoiled. Okay. You were spoiled.
She had a girl's bicycle. I had to ride my brother's. I've never forgotten that.
This was in 1 year and these are best friends, and you still remember that. Okay. All right.
But another thing I remember was when I was thinking Mrs. Simmons, we never called any of our parents by their first name. I lived at her house and she had mine, and our mothers were Mrs. Simmons and Mrs. Banks.
Even to each other.
Yes, even to
They
each
don't do
other.
that
yeah.
nowadays. Okay.
I was going to tell you, I still have what we took in our paycheck, and it wasn't much. If we hadn't had a house, we wouldn't have made it.
Oh, that? Okay.
You still have
Would you
check stub? Is that what you're saying?
I have it written down, how much that we would get.
Would you share that?
And we just, you know, if we hadn't been furnished stuff.
I'll get it.
And my husband was a garage foreman, and we didn't draw much salary. And my husband,
So probably $1 was very extravagant.
Amen. Sure was.
Okay.
You put all in it too.
For $1.
You could buy a pair of shoes for $1.
And if you ever spent $5 for a pair of shoes, you remember that.